Hi, this is Lisa with Inspire to Thrive. Today, I wanted to help people who have been on Twitter, X, for a long time and really haven't changed their way of posting on the social media network. It's really changed a lot since I started back in 2009. I can't believe it's been that long. Back in 2009, we only had 140 characters per post. That's what really kept me going with X over the years. I just love that simplicity of being brief. I'm not one for doing long form words day after day. I can do them in a blog post, maybe a LinkedIn article, but when it comes to social media, I'm not a big fan of doing these long form content. So Twitter really kept me going for years with that 140 characters. They changed it, I think it was around 2008 or so, to 240 characters, which wasn't that much more. It was still doable. It didn't seem like, it was crazy to get that many characters on there. And a lot of times we would post with links, especially if you were into blogging. We'd share each other's posts. We'd always include the link. We would tag people. On Fridays, we'd do the Follow Friday and tag a lot of people and engage. And it was good. I met a lot of people. I got a lot of traffic. It was the most traffic to my blog than any other social media network. Actually, more than anything except for organic SEO, Google, and search engine traffic. Twitter's always been number one. There was a couple times when it changed over to X and it started to slip a little bit, and Pinterest took over the spot for like 1 month. But that's been it. Twitter and X have been consistent for me with the traffic. But I'm also very consistent posting. There was a time, I don't even remember, it was probably 10 years ago. I was sick and I probably didn't post for 2 days. I actually had people texting me saying, "Are you okay? We saw you weren't on Twitter today. What's going on?" Even the day that I had my accident, well, not the day of the accident, day or two after the accident, I was able to post, from the hospital. And I had met a group of women that lived nearby. And we used to go for lunch. We all met on Twitter and we began going for lunch. And when they saw about the accident, they actually sent me flowers to the hospital. My husband's like, "Who's that from?" And I'm like, "That's my Twitter friends." And he goes, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "The girls I meet for lunch." And it all started with a conversation about an earthquake that took place in Rhode Island, where I lived at the time. I was actually working at the newspaper. And we felt it on the second floor and no one could believe it. So I went on Twitter right away and said, "Let me see what's going on." And I could see from the south that was moving up. And then I met these other women in the local area saying the same thing. They're like, "Looks like we just had an earthquake. It felt like it, and of course the newsroom wouldn't confirm it till an hour and a half later. But on Twitter we knew right away, just like today. You can find things out immediately. It's just amazing. So that's the second feature that kind of kept me there, was keeping up with news, weather. I'm kind of a weather buff. Always want to know if it's going to rain, snow, gonna have storms, tornadoes. We've had one of those actually in Rhode Island before Twitter, but even afterwards, there's been threats. And here in Maine, surprisingly, we had a couple of years ago, we actually had friends that used to live in Rhode Island, moved to Maine, but they were a couple hours from us, came to visit, and we had a tornado warning. We all ended up down in the basement. So I followed that very closely on X to see exactly, where it was going. So those are the things that have kept me on for years. So the first thing was the brevity, the 140 characters. Now you're talking 280. But if you have the premium plus or premium subscriber, you can have 25,000 as your post. And those are the very lengthy posts that you see now. You may see people doing threads. You may also see people do articles. I started doing a few articles, and one of them actually ranked pretty well in Google. So I was pretty happy with that. And I've got to get back to doing some more articles. I find them to work pretty well, not only on the network, but off the network and driving traffic again to the blog and website. So those are some of the things that have changed in that respect. The other things that have changed is video over the years. You were able to do short videos in the beginning, and then they started integration with Vine. Twitter used to own Vine. There's been some talk about X acquiring it again, but I'm not sure. But they keep saying video is going to become important because Elon, the new owner, of X, if you haven't heard, sure you have, wants to compete with YouTube for video. So he's got a little bit of work ahead of him for that one. So videos you can do again, if you're on there as a free, you can only do like 2 minutes and 20 seconds. But if you have that, again, premium account, you can do up to 4 hours. So you have a much longer video length with the premium plus subscription. So I do recommend, if you're going to be serious about your X account, to subscribe, to be a subscriber. It really does have a lot of great benefits. Right now it's Grok 3. Love it. Another thing that's changed over the years is Spaces. Spaces has been something, if I had to estimate, I'd say about 3 years now. I've gone on some. I loved it when I go walking in the fall, in the spring, as you see the flowers here. I love the lupins. And so when I go on my daily walks, I used to take the phone, always take the phone with me. And I was able to do some Spaces and actually participate and talk. So it was like having someone with you as you're walking. So it's a really great feature, and it doesn't matter what you look like because no one sees you on the Spaces. So that's a great feature. I really like that. I want to get into doing more, maybe even hosting one. There's still Twitter chats, but they're far and few between. A lot of the people that were involved in the Twitter chats moved over to Blue Sky. A lot of it, I think, was political reasons. Some have come back, some have not. So that's, there's a few, like I said, there's still a few chats left, and they are a great way to participate. I always loved Twitter chats. They were so quick and fun, and you'd meet some new people that came on the chat, and it was just 1 hour of ramping it up on the network, as I say. So that's a great feature. Today, so how has it changed overall? How has it changed today? What I've noticed, what I've seen, what I've learned is that you can't post just links anymore. I try to only post links once, maybe twice a day now, where before I was doing like 30, maybe 40. And of course, there were programs that did that before X took over Twitter and increased the price of the API. So that took a lot of the tools that were available at the time off the market. So things rapidly changed when that happened. And a lot of bloggers, weren't able to do all this stuff. So some of them, again, went over to Blue Sky. Some do a lot more on LinkedIn, some Facebook. But the ones that remain do really well because there's not as many of us. But many are coming back. But it's just in different ways. You have to think differently today when you go on X. It's more about engagement. It's more about getting to know other people and replying. That's big. Everyone calls the reply guy. I keep saying I'm a reply gal. And that's something I always did, since 2009. If someone was to send a post to me that wasn't, offensive, harassment, that type of thing, I'd always respond. That's how you get to know others, and build that community on a network. So the reply guy or gal, however you want to be referred to, is really huge today on the network. So everyone's always, trying to reply. It gets a little boring when they just say good morning and nothing else. And if I notice someone constantly that just does that and nothing else, I may not, get so much engaged, spend my time on that, because I want to get to know a little more. How's your day? How's the weather? What's going on? Your end of the world, your part of the world. And I'm not so concerned about time anymore because my community is really international. It's not just, here in New England. I've got friends out in California, so it's a 3 hour different time zone. And I have others, on the other side of the pond that are 6, 8 hours difference, and some even 12-hour difference. So you can pretty much post at any time, but you can look at your analytics as long as you have a subscription, and you'll be able to see some of the better times for you to post. Or if you use a new tool that's specifically for X called Creator Buddy, you really get to find out your best times. You get a little content coach. It's a really cool tool. And that's been helping me, with my timing of trying to put my best posts at a certain time. But you can still reply any time of day and night, and do other posts. And the same rule applies. It's a little different, but I always used to say when you're first starting out and you've only got 100 followers, you don't want to post too often because people are going to stop following you because that's all they see in their stream if you're constantly posting. But the more followers you gain in time, the more you can post. So I had really backed out from that, say 40 times a day when I started this new change. It was around mid-December. And if you read one of my blog posts, I even shared a screenshot, and you can actually see the difference in replies and impressions, how they just went way off the chart once I started. So I was only doing like maybe 2 posts a day. And I kind of ramped up a little. I'm like maybe 4 to 6. So I try to stay in that range per day. I try not to get too ambitious, but I spend more time replying. So that's how Twitter has really changed since 2009. It's not so much about posting, it's more about replying and engaging with others or going on spaces. Even if it's just to listen, you can still, they have this little area down the right-hand side if you're on desktop. And even on your phone, you can do it as well. I have an Android and it's available there. You can do little emojis. Excuse me if you hear my dog Stella here. She's starting to make a little bit of noise playing with her toys. Stella! Um, so even on your phone, you can use the spaces, and you can use these emojis. So people know that you're engaged by, sharing your feelings on the space. Because not all space people who are hosting the space will allow everyone to talk. You can raise your hand, but sometimes they have other guest speakers and there's just not enough time. And speaking of time, most spaces, the least amount I've seen is like a half hour, but the longest I've seen, 24 hours, I can't even imagine. But I've been on some that are 2, 3 hours. I mean, I kind of lose interest after that much time. And then if you have a really good speaker like Alex Finn, I love listening to his spaces. And so if I listen to someone else after his, it's like, oh, it's not as good. But it all depends on the topic. You have to, be interested in the topics. And sometimes you don't know what the topics are because they'll have like a little headline and you think it's about something, you go on and it's not. I've had that happen this morning. So I was only on for 2 minutes and I said, nah, I can't spend my time here. So you kind of have to know. And look out for other people in your stream. You'll see if you go to your follow stream, I like being in my follow stream often if I'm doing replies. You can see when people are in spaces. So you'll say, oh, my friend Beth, she's on this space. It must be pretty decent because she's a really good speaker too. So you find these other people, and when they're on the spaces, you can join. So it's another great way. And live streaming is becoming hot as well. And that's just not on X, because I've joined Ann Smotty. She's one of the best in SEO. And I've gone on a lot of her live streams on LinkedIn, and I'm able to comment and use emojis, etc. And I've also watched it on X and able to contribute there too. So live streaming is starting to pop up a little bit more and becoming very popular. And also with Rumble. I do have an account on Rumble. I'll probably be posting this not only on YouTube X, but on Rumble. Rumble's just gotten a whole bunch of investments, and they've been very popular with Dan Bongino, who's actually going to be leaving for political job or not position, I guess you should say. And so Rumble has been really growing, and I just see it going further in the coming year. It's really popular with gamers. So if you're into gaming, that's really something you got to check out. But I like Rumble for a variety of different reasons, but they're really good with the live streaming. And they've got all different kinds of content. And when I've had a video pulled from YouTube, uh, it's nice to have it on Rumble, so it's still out there. So just keep that in mind because YouTube may take down a video. I had one about private Instagram accounts, and that one got taken off. There's many others still up. Same topic, same type of thing. And they just took mine down. They made you take a little class on YouTube, and they throttled back the account for 3 months, and then I was back to, where I was. But some people actually get taken down altogether. So I think that's what happened to Dan Bongino. He was taken down altogether and went over to Rumble and really grew tremendously there. So another little tidbit, but you can see all of that on X. The owner of Rumble has actually got a very active account on X, and I like following Chris. I can't pronounce his last name. I know it begins with a P, but if you put Chris Rumble, you'll be able to find him there. You can actually use X as a search engine, just like you would Google. Now, the really cool stuff coming out with X is is this Grok 3. And I love using it when you do replies. There's a little button that, as you're replying, it says, do you want to improve it or enhance it? I think it's called enhance. Enhance this post. Not only can you enhance it with your voice, but you can use other voices. Sometimes I like using an influencer voice just to see what it comes out. But there's like a whole slew of different personalities you can try. Now, Creative Buddy takes it even further and actual people, and it's really cool. But you can have fun with it, but it's not being really authentic. I do like using the influencer one from time to time, but again, I will take out some of the words because I'm not like the type of person to say, yo, family. That's just not me. So I do take that out, but it helps you to be a little bit more creative. You know, people say, oh, AI, it's going to take everything away. And it's really like having an assistant, but it doesn't take things away from you. I've actually been spending a lot of time trying to learn all of this AI because I've used so many tools with it, like the Right Blogger. I still love the Right Blogger. I mean, it's not just writing, it's SEO, it's all kinds of stuff. It's taken a video, like I can take this video after and have them put it into a post. Of course, I'm going to edit and, update and do other things, but it saves me a ton of time starting from scratch. So that's the cool feature that I really like, that I can take this video and have them, I input it, I put in, again, the right prompts. That's the huge thing I'm learning, is that you have to have the right prompts. I actually coded, I was really excited about this, and it's thanks to Alex Finn, his videos, what I've learned from him. I was actually able to code a formula on my site so that my clients can go and see which is the best social media platform for them to use based on criterias. So that was a question I've always been asked, and I thought, oh, it'd be so nice to come up with a calculator. And I was actually reaching out to developers and apps and finding out it was going to be $10,000, $15,000. I'm like, can't do that. That's kind of crazy for one thing. So, and I'm actually trying to refine it, make it even better. So yeah, there's so much you can do with this AI. I'm really loving the Grok 3. It's free to use because I have a subscription on X, so that's another huge benefit. You can ask it all kinds of questions. What I like better about that than the ChatGPT when I was using it is Grok uses information that's current. It doesn't, months later or years, it's very current, and it gives you all sides. Sometimes I was writing articles. I have another blog, Small Biz Tipster. And I had some articles about business that I was writing. And every time I would go to these tools, they would come out and put things about the environment and climate change, things that had nothing to do with the article. So I was like, why, So with Grok, it's a little different. So I've actually got to try it with Grok. I haven't done that yet. So if you haven't tried Grok 3, do try it. It's also available now on Android, thanks to my friend Jonathan. I call him cousin. He looks like one of my cousins on X. Jonathan had a link. I'll try to get that here or in the blog post for you to share. So those are the basic X changes that I've noticed since 2009 to today, 2025. It's going to keep evolving. They seem to be changes all the time, and they still have rules. I saw yesterday a lot of folks were saying that they couldn't do any more replies. Don't ask me how they got to 2,200 replies. I don't know how that's humanly possible. Unless you're doing one word after another, but why would they even be still on the platform? That's really spam. They still are suspending accounts, taking accounts down. I noticed a lot of folks that I was replying to in late December. I haven't seen them, and it's February, almost the end of February. So I think they may have been gone, or they just got frustrated because they weren't making money. That's the biggest thing that's changed. Did bring that one up yet? So the biggest change to X is the creator program, and that is monetization to make money by creating content on X. But you need three things. The first is being verified. So you have to have a premium account. The second thing is that you have to have 500 premium followers. And the third, which I find the hottest, is the 5 million impressions over 3 months. But once you hit it, you don't have to keep hitting it month after month. It's just that initial. Because that really got me thinking for a while. It's like, how is that possible? And then the same thing if you want to have subscriptions, you have to be verified again. You need 2,000 verified subscribers for that one. You have to be at least 18. Okay. And active in the past 30 days. Well, if you're getting the 5 million impressions, I would hope you're active, right? And that is also the 5 million impressions. So how do you go about getting those 5 million impressions? That's something I'm working on now. I just find it a challenge because you may not make a lot of money all the time you're going to put in. Some people are making less than 200 a month. And if you do the math, if you're putting in hours and hours, it's not. Unless you are getting, business from what you're doing there to your blog, to your small business, to your retail business, etc., then it makes sense. Then you can try. But what I'm finding is replying to some of the larger accounts that have 1 million followers or more. And how do you know when they post and try to get to the top? You can set to notifications, but you can't do this to too many accounts because you might get suspended or taken down for a short time. So you have to be careful, not to do too much of some of the things that people are doing to get to that 5 million. Because it's really hard unless you're Elon, right? Or you're some star personality that people are constantly, engaging with your content. So that's one of the ways is to reply to these larger accounts. And beware if you do get into anything that's controversial, you're going to have to be able to take some of the heat. You can block people or you can just ignore. You can respond. I try to respond as politely as possible. And then I ignore. I did block a few in the beginning because I was like, oh, I just don't want to deal with this, don't have time. But if you ignore people after a while, they'll kind of find someone else to argue with if that's what they're trying to do. So just be aware of that if you're getting into controversial things, because there's a lot of political controversy on X. You can also, if you want to avoid that, there's a lot of comical type things. Videos, there's different types of accounts that, really get into more like a TikTok type thing. So you can comment on those, reply to those. And there's some that have 1, 2, 3 million followers I've seen. So you can do that on those if you want to avoid all that other stuff. Or you can engage along the way with that as well. But that seems to be the best way to get those impressions up. And the other way is, again, what you post, that it resonates with your audience and you're replying back and forth to everyone that, engages. And one thing of caution, because someone was saying one time, oh, I had so many replies, I couldn't keep up. I didn't see them. I'm like, how can you not see them? And then it happened to me. You have to actually go look at your post and go all the way to the bottom and make sure you reply to everyone because it can somehow it doesn't show up in the feed. So just be aware of that if you do get to that point. I'm still working on my 2 million. I'm almost, at the 2 million mark. And this is since mid-December. And then others are saying, oh, I did it in a week. I did it in 2 weeks. I'm like, how in the heck? I mean, you have to be really lucky or something's not right. It does take time. So I'm going to find out as I continue on this journey of trying to be a content creator on X. And again, I don't think there's a lot of money in it. It's more of a challenge because I'm there anyway for the blog. I figured I would try it out, test it out. Another great way I didn't talk about at all is the communities on X. And they've changed a lot since they started. And I actually started my own community of bloggers, and I'm really only allowing bloggers and such on there. I may have to rethink it because now they made all your community posts go public. And I was like, I just wanted this for my group. I want it to be a nice, tight community. And now those posts go public. So it's kind of a catch-22, right? But when you do post in communities, whether it's yours or someone else's, they can help boost your impressions up. It's sort of like a Facebook group versus a page, if that's still the case. I believe so. The groups usually do really well, but if you post on your own, you don't get as much. So being on communities is similar to that group. So those are working really well. I have a community and I belong to many. They've actually just increased the amount. It was 30 and I believe they increased it. I'm not sure the amount now. I haven't hit it. But I'm in over 30 communities and I try to participate in the communities. And if you're an owner of the communities, you also have analytics for it. So that's quite interesting. I love their analytics because it gives you a lot, not just about how many replies you're doing, what your impressions are, but you can find out your audience. Is it more male, female, the age group, that kind of thing. So there's quite a bit in those analytics that you can look at. So if you have the community, those are really cool. And then these others, if you have met all the requirements, you get paid. You get what they call subscriptions. So, for example, I know Alex and Beth, who I've mentioned, I think even Jonathan, all have their subscriptions. So you subscribe, it could be $2, $3. I've seen $8, $10, $15 a month. People pay. And then usually they'll kind of boost you along the way. They'll help you out. They'll do different things. And then if you subscribe to someone, they do nothing, then you can unsubscribe. It's a month to month. So I like really reviewing those every month. Okay, how much am I doing? You know, I was up to like $35, $40. So I was subscribing to like 9, 10 people, maybe more. So I kind of evaluate them every month and see how it's working. You know, is it worth it? Do I belong in this particular subscription? There's quite a few that do a lot with history. They're really fascinating, but it really wasn't my niche. And they kept trying to upsell me things once I did the subscription. I mean, upsell like high, like $1,000 type thing, not just, $100. It was like 1,000. I was like, whoa, this is, I just signed up for this $5 a month and now they're talking, they want me to do all this stuff for 1,000. Like, you just met me. So I got out of that one, but there's all different kinds and they're not all like that. So I do recommend you get involved in the communities that interest you. So I'm in, many other different types of communities that I have interests in. I've got one for dogs, right? For all about dogs. So you can pick and choose those. But those are a great way also to boost your impressions and actually get with more like-minded people by being in the communities. So I think that's gives you a lot to go on. So just don't post the way you used to. I call it post and run. Just post your content, run, or use a third-party tool just to do it and never go back to engage and find out what's going on the network. I hope this has been helpful. Have a great day. Thank you.